can hear them.
I think they're...
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
The story begins with a man named Bryan who thinks about what to give his daughter for her birthday. He remembers that Kim always wants to be a singer, so he buys her a karaoke machine. Then he wraps the present and goes to the big mansion where his daughter Kim and his ex-wife Lenore live with Kim's stepfather Stuart. Seeing the present, Lenore tells him that Kim is not a child anymore, so he should not have bought this gift. However, Kim hugs Stuart and thanks him for the present he gives her. Then Stuart steals the moment when he brings out a horse, instantly winning Kim's heart. Bryan feels disappointed because Kim leaves his gift on the ground. He feels powerless against the wealthy Stuart. That night, Bryan goes home and places Kim's picture in an album where he keeps every year's birthday photos. Even though she is growing up, she is still his beloved daughter. Later, Bryan's friend Sam and others join him for a barbecue party they always hold since Bryan retired. Bryan is a retired CIA operative with special skills in combat, tracking, and intelligence. His friends remember an incident where he flew over 9,000 miles while on a mission just to attend Kim's birthday. This shows how much Bryan loves her. After the evening, Sam tells Bryan about a job that takes only 4 hours and pays $2,500. The task is simple. They need to protect a pop singer named Shira at her concert. Bryan, who always rejects jobs, quickly agrees this time. The next night, the group carefully guides Shira through the crowd and into her room. There, Bryan asks her for advice for his daughter, who wants to become a singer. But Shira tells him that being a singer is not an easy life.
Yeah, I do. Tell her to pick another career.
Later, Kim calls Bryan and says she wants to meet him. Thinking that they are finally reconnecting after years of absence, Bryan becomes excited. After the concert, a man tries to attack Shira, but Bryan steps in and disarms him. He takes her to the car and calms her down. Later, Shira invites him to her house and thanks him for saving her life. She also tells him that if Kim has talent, she will help her find a coach and a manager. The next day, Bryan meets Kim and Lenore for lunch. Kim says she wants to travel to Paris with her friend Amanda to spend vacation with Amanda's cousin. Since she is 18, Kim asks Bryan to sign a consent paper so she can leave the country. Bryan is reluctant, and Lenore pushes him to sign, saying it is not a big deal. However, Bryan refuses because he knows the dangers of the world and believes a 17-year-old should not travel alone. Kim becomes upset and leaves the table disappointed. Lenore then tells him that.
You sacrificed our marriage in the service of the country.
That afternoon, Bryan visits Kim and tells her that he will only sign the paper if she gives him every detail of her trip and calls him every night. Kim becomes very excited and hugs her father to thank him. The next day, Bryan drives Kim to the airport and warns her about certain areas of Paris to avoid. At the airport, Kim runs to Amanda the moment she sees her, leaving Bryan standing alone with the bags. Then, Bryan notices Kim's map and realizes they are not only going to Paris, but traveling all across Europe. He becomes angry and asks Lenore if she knows about it. Lenore tells him they are following a concert tour across Europe. She warns Bryan not to smother Kim and to let her live her life, or she will hate him for it. Bryan reluctantly agrees and lets Kim leave with Amanda. After a while, Kim and Amanda land in Paris, full of excitement about their adventures. At the airport gate, they meet a man named Peter, who helps them take a picture. Then, he shares a taxi with them, saying taxis are expensive. When they arrive at their apartment, Amanda tells Kim that her cousins are actually in Spain and that they have the entire place to themselves. Peter then learns the apartment location and invites them to a party. Amanda instantly agrees, even though Kim is reluctant. Right after, Peter calls someone and informs them about the 2 young girls he just met.
5th floor, 2 girls around 18.
Later, Bryan calls Kim, worried because she has not called him. While speaking to her, he asks for Amanda's cousins' numbers, but Kim explains they are in Spain and she did not know. Suddenly, men enter the apartment and attack Amanda, dragging her away. As Kim screams on the phone, Bryan stays calm and records everything, trying to collect as much information as possible. Kim quickly tells him about Peter and everything that happened on their way to the apartment. Bryan orders her to hide under the bed and keep the phone on the ground. He instructs her to describe everything she sees because he knows they are about to take her. Just as they drag her out, Kim shouts out all the details she can, including height, tattoos, and facial hair. Then the phone goes silent. Bryan waits patiently until he is sure someone else is on the other end. He then tells the person that,
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
The man only replies with,
Good luck.
and hangs up. Right after, Bryan sends the recording to Sam to analyze the voice. Then, he goes to Stuart and Lenore. He asks Stuart if he has any enemies in his business, and reveals that he already knows a lot about Stuart's work. Stuart is shocked, but Bryan explains that he would never allow someone near his family without studying them first. Bryan then tells Stuart to get him a plane to Paris in 1 hour. He then rushes to Kim's room to find more details about her trip. At that moment, Sam calls Bryan and informs him that the kidnappers are an organized group of sex traffickers of Armenian origin. Their method is to target young girls who arrive in Paris for vacation and then force them into prostitution. Sam also reveals that the man Bryan spoke to is named Marco, who has a gang tattoo. Bryan learns that he has only 96 hours before Kim disappears without a trace. Hearing this, Lenore cries in guilt because she had convinced Bryan to let Kim go. The next morning, Bryan arrives at the apartment in Paris where Kim was staying and sneaks inside. He carefully recreates the attack step by step and collects samples from the room. Then, he finds the phone on the ground and retrieves its memory card. When he checks the card, he sees a picture of Amanda and Kim. Looking closer, he notices Peter's reflection in the photo and decides to track him down. He follows Peter to the airport, where Peter is trying to lure another girl. Bryan quickly throws Peter into a cab and hits him several times, demanding information about Kim and Amanda. But Peter is not alone. Another man attacks Bryan, and while Bryan skillfully knocks him out, Peter escapes. Bryan chases him to a highway, but a truck suddenly hits Peter and kills him instantly. Bryan feels disappointed because his only lead is now gone. Later, Bryan meets Claude, a former French agent who now works for the National Police. Bryan explains that his daughter has only 80 hours left before she disappears. Claude tells him where he might find the Albanians, but warns that they are dangerous, and there are hundreds of them. After Bryan leaves to investigate, Claude secretly assigns a man to follow him so that he does not cause trouble. That night, Bryan rents a car and heads to the place where the Albanians force prostitutes to work. First, he hires an Albanian translator and tells him to wait in the car. Next, Bryan approaches one girl and pretends to bother her so that her handler will come. Soon, a man arrives to confront Bryan, but Bryan secretly plants a listening device on him. Then, he returns to the car and asks the translator to interpret what they say. The translator tells him they are going to a construction site because some new girls are causing problems. Bryan realizes this must be about Kim and Amanda, so he rushes to the site. When he arrives, Bryan discovers that it is not a construction site, but a hidden brothel filled with drugged girls. He searches partition after partition until he finds Kim's jacket. He knocks out the man inside and asks the girl where she got the jacket, but the girl is too drugged to respond clearly.
Who gave this to you?
I'm good.
At that moment, a guard attacks Bryan, and their fight alerts all the others. Bryan takes the girl and manages to escape while gunfire erupts around him. The guards chase him across the site, but he skillfully drives a car through the chaos and escapes. Meanwhile, Claude's man follows Bryan and reports everything back. Soon, Bryan notices he is being tailed, so at a traffic light, he seizes the chance to ditch the man and flicks his finger at him before driving away. Next, Bryan takes the girl to a hotel and gives her treatment for the drugs she was given. The next morning, Claude calls Bryan and asks him to meet, but Bryan is now cautious and tells him they can only talk on the phone. Claude warns him to leave France quietly without being arrested, reminding him of their old friendship. Bryan insists that they should rescue his daughter, but Claude replies that he is no longer a field officer and only follows his superior's orders. As they speak, Claude's men are already tracking Bryan's phone location and move in. But just when they think they have caught him, Bryan outsmarts them. They were only tracking a dummy phone, and Bryan walks free right under their noses. Then, Bryan returns to the hotel and finds the girl awake. After calming her down, he asks her about the jacket. She tells him the whole story. She too was tricked by Peter, who promised a party. But then, men kidnapped her and forced her into prostitution. After learning the location, Bryan pretends to be Claude and heads there. He demands to be taken to the boss, or he will expose their crimes. When he meets the boss, he sees the man Kim described, the one with the tattoos. Bryan stays calm and continues his act. Posing as Claude, he claims he is there to negotiate new protection rates. After some back and forth, they agree on a new price. This proves Bryan's suspicion true that Claude is secretly working with them. After this, Bryan cleverly tricks Marco into saying good luck and instantly realizes this is the same man from the phone call.
Good luck.
Bryan then skillfully kills everyone in the room except Marco, using precise shots. He searches the house and finds multiple girls, all drugged and exhausted. In one of the rooms, he finds Amanda, but she is already dead. With time running out, Bryan tortures Marco to get information about Kim. He stabs 2 metal rods into Marco's legs and attaches electrodes. He shocks him repeatedly until Marco breaks down. Marco finally reveals that they never touch virgins, but instead sell them for huge profits. He admits that Kim was sold to a man named Patrice, but does not know the exact location. Bryan flips the switch again and leaves Marco to die from the electrocution. Next, Bryan surprises Claude by visiting him at his house. Claude puts his children to bed and quietly takes a gun from under the sink. Bryan asks him directly, in front of his wife, if he is involved with the traffickers. Claude admits that he does whatever is necessary to provide comfort for his family, as long as it does not cause him trouble. Bryan then asks who Patrice is. At that moment, Claude points his gun at Bryan and says he will take him to the airport before he causes more problems. But Bryan is one step ahead. He shows Claude all the bullets, proving that his gun is empty.
Let's get going. Dinner is over.
That's what happens.
Bryan then shoots Claude's wife on the arm and forces him to reveal who Patrice is. Claude has no choice but to show him the information on his computer. After getting what he needs, Bryan knocks out Claude and leaves. That night, Bryan heads to a dinner party at Patrice's mansion, where many wealthy people gather. He once again pretends to be Claude and slips into the party. Then, he enters a secret chamber, knocks out the guard, and takes the elevator. He disguises himself as a waiter and knocks out another guard. Finally, he reaches a hidden room where a secret sex slave auction is taking place. Bryan stays calm and acts as one of the waiters serving the bidders while he waits for Kim to arrive. Kim finally appears as the last girl up for sale. Bryan forces the bidder he serves to raise the price and buy her. But just as they leave the room, guards knock him out. When Bryan wakes up, Patrice and his men have discovered that he is not Claude. Bryan tells them he is the father of the last girl. He offers to buy her for any price, but Patrice tells him,
This business, you have no refunds, no returns, no discounts, no buybacks.
Patrice then orders his men to kill Bryan and leaves. They try to strangle Bryan, but he frees himself and kills all the guards with his particular set of skills. He then finds Patrice and shoots him in the leg to make him talk. Patrice finally admits that Kim is already on a boat with her buyer. Bryan then kills him on the spot. Next, Bryan runs outside and sees his daughter being taken away by the buyer and his men. He chases them on foot until they reach the dock and board the boat. Realizing he cannot catch them, Bryan drives to a nearby bridge and plans to intercept the boat. He speeds to the spot, times his move carefully, and jumps onto the boat, knocking out the guard outside. Meanwhile, the buyer delivers all the girls he bought to his boss. Then he hears the noise outside and goes to investigate. But Bryan is already inside the boat, eliminating every guard in his path. When he finally faces the buyer, they fight hand to hand since both are out of bullets. They grab knives and clash fiercely. At first, the buyer has the upper hand, but Bryan's determination to save his daughter drives him forward. He eventually overpowers the buyer and kills him. Now injured, Bryan enters the boss's bedroom and finds him holding Kim with a knife to her neck. Bryan takes a deep breath, aims carefully, and shoots the boss in the head. Kim cries as she realizes how much her father risked for her. She hugs him tightly, finally understanding that he was telling the truth about the dangers of the world. Finally, Bryan and Kim fly back home. She reunites with her mother and Stuart. The next day, Bryan takes Kim to Shira, who had promised to help her with her singing career.